Hey everybody, this is the 16-foot JUMPZYLLA Trampoline. I was able to complete this the other day and I thought I'd make a video not to go through a step-by-step process of how to make it, but just some tips that I wish I knew at the very beginning that'll hopefully make it easier for you. So if you look at the instruction manual, the first thing that you're supposed to do is to make these bottom pieces right here. For the 16-foot trampoline, there's going to be 5 pieces. Easy enough to set up individually. And once you finish that, the next step is to do the frame of the circle, as you can see over here. Now this circle frame has an attachment here, and it's easy to attach everything in a circle. This piece and this piece does not lock in place, they just slide in place. The problem I had was the next step, when you put these legs on the bottoms, the different connectors between the circle pieces would slip off, and I must have done it like 4 or 5 times, remove it and put it back. So what I ended up deciding to do was, before I put the legs on and attach them to the circle, I decided I would do this step first, which was to put the trampoline piece in the middle, because I figured that once all the connections are attached, the tension would be just right, so that when I put the bottom legs on, the circle framework will not break apart. So I did exactly what the instruction manual says. I did bottom, top, left, right, and then opposite sides. The trick here is you really have to count the number of, there's 100 altogether springs, and you just have to count to make sure that you're connecting. So say this is spring 1, and then count on the frame and count on the pad. You would have to count on both sides, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, all the way up to 25. Connect another 20. Well, this will be connected, so 1 50, and then 25 75, and then just count to make sure that you're in the correct space. Otherwise, if you're not correctly counting, it'll be hard. That's how you know you're kind of off, because that's how I knew I was off. I counted wrong here, and I couldn't get this spring to connect, but once I got the count right, it was able to connect. So after this was connected, I did need help, because this is pretty big. So I had my wife come out to help carry one side. I had something carrying. I propped this side on with something else, and then I carried the other side. And I think maybe this was a problem because it's the 16-foot one, and maybe the other smaller ones don't have a problem. But I found that this worked for me. So I would encourage you again to just do the pad first, and then maybe have somebody, 1 or 2 people, help carry it so that you can get these legs on. During the next step, where you would add the legs on, these bottom pieces right here, 5 of them for the 16-foot trampoline, it worked out better in the sense that the circular frame did not come loose like it did, because the trampoline springs gave it enough tension to just keep it together. What I found was a problem was that for each of these, when you connect them, you're supposed to see the hole on both sides so that these screws can be connected and go through. For about 3 of these legs, the holes were not quite aligning so that they were big enough to get the screw through. So the tip that I wish I knew, because I figured out a little bit later after some troubleshooting, is that all you need to do is take this leg and turn it around, so that this is on that side and that leg is on this side. And every time I did that for each of the 3 problem legs, it lined up perfectly, and I was able to get the screws in. So once again, after you connect this top spring, or the trampoline pad, and you're ready to put the legs on, if any of the legs don't align perfectly so that you can get the holes aligned, just try switching them around, so that when you do that, you'll see that the holes will line up perfectly. And once I figured that out, everything else was easy. I was able to get the legs on, And then the next step will be to connect these pieces. After you get the legs on, this step is basically this right here. You connect it using the screws they gave you. It's pretty straightforward. I thought that was the easiest part of the whole thing. And then there's a top piece that you would connect right here, and then you would go all the way around until you got all those pieces. So that was pretty easy. Now the next step, after you have all of these long pieces right here, it tells you in step 7 to put this connector on top of each one. And then after they tell you to put the connector on top of each one, the tip goes afterwards, and the tip says that you can connect the fiberglass sticks through the safety net and to the T connectors until you have a circle. So I wish they had put this tip before step 7, because I had done this again like 3 or 4 times where I connected this first, and then I tried to put the fiberglass through the netting and connect it one by one, and it kept falling apart. So I took them all off, finally read this tip. So before you put the connector onto the top of these poles over here, what you should do is connect the fiberglass and the netting to the top to these connectors first before you connect them to the top, so that they're all connected. And then once you have the circle of fiberglass connected, then you take each one and you finally connect that connector to the long pole. I hope that makes sense. So you once again connect the top fiberglass circle and the netting, and then once you have that, you connect the connector pieces to the tops of these long poles over here. Much easier. I was able to do it much faster, and it did not mess up at all. And then once all of these connectors were done, the next step is on the bottom of the net. You basically just go through the hooks and connect. I just made sure that it would connect from right to left, right to left, right to left, and you don't really need to count. I kind of just eyeballed it, and it worked out just fine. And then after the netting is connected, the last thing I think is this ladder. So for the ladder, each one of these steps, you would have to come from the bottom on both sides and push them up and do the screw. The screw thing is easy. However, when you put each step on, I found that it was difficult to slide them up to where they were supposed to be. So my last tip here is to use a hammer, and when you're sliding the steps in, hammer the bottom piece, from here until you can get it to the right height where you need to do the screws. Just lightly hammer away until you have it in the right location. Put the screws on, and then put these here. And the last thing I'll say is this cover here, there's 2 of them for the 16-foot trampoline. I would say line them up to where you want the things to connect. And what I did was I just kind of tied one side and then tied another side over here. And then after you do the first one, I didn't want this connector where the Velcro is, I didn't want that to be near the ladder. So I made sure it was kind of positioned a little bit away from the ladder, and so that the other connector is towards the back of the trampoline right here. So just a little thing in case that matters to you. It's a little bit of a tight fit, as you can see. I didn't overlap the Velcro all the way, because if I had done that all the way, then as you go around here, the other side would not have connected. I would have been short here, and there would have been space, and you can see some of the springs if it was short. So I actually had to do this twice. I tied everything, it was short, so I untied everything again and moved it just a little bit so that it wasn't completely overlapping. And then when I did that, I tied everything all over again, and I was able to make up that gap just by making sure that the Velcro did not overlap all the way. So now it's like overlapping halfway, and I was able to make the cover fit. So just another tip, you know, so you don't waste time undoing things like I did and redoing them again. Otherwise, let me think if there's anything else. Yeah, I guess what I didn't mention was when you're putting the netting up, you should decide where you want the zipper opening to be, and I decided I wanted it to be right here, right off of our patio, so the kids could just run up to the ladder and into the zipper. And alright, so now this is the last, I know I keep saying the last thing, but I left this unhooked so that the opening of the net can be bigger and wider, so they can come in easily. The kids have been playing on the trampoline for a couple days. They love it. It's been pretty sturdy, very sturdy, and so far so good. I'm just kind of keeping an eye on whether anything rips over time, but I think if we just respect the weight capacity and, you know, treat it with care, hopefully this will last us a long time. All right, I hope this was very helpful. All right, take care and God bless you guys. Nice. Very nice. Very nice.
Very nice. Very good. Very nice. That one's gonna get.
The orange straps are on it, and they're broke.
There you go.